Ta-da! Hello everyone, my name is Joseph. Welcome to Quid episode 3. Today, I am going to be talking about something very close to my heart. Today, you and I are going to be having a conservation conversation. Imagine, if you will, to the left of you, West African black rhino. To the right, a Javan tiger. What do? Well, it's easy. You leave the museum because both of these species, as of now, are extinct. According to Campbell and Reese, our beloved biology book, 7th edition, we have 1.7 million known species. That's a lot of species. We also have an estimated 30 million species. That's even more species. Unfortunately, a lot of those species are going extinct. But why? Well, in my humble opinion and the opinion of many others, we're just not taking care of what we have. For example, 12% of the 10,000 bird species worldwide are facing global extinction. 24% of the 5,000 mammal species, same thing. 20% of freshwater fishes have already gone extinct in the last 100 years. And 32% of amphibians are threatened or going extinct. That's pretty bad. But why is it bad? I mean, what does it matter if we lose species? We'll get to that in a minute. You've probably heard some of these already, but I'm going to go over them again. We have a problem here in America, and not just America, but as people in general, and that's the myth of superabundance. We tend to think that everything is in such an unlimited quantity, coal, oil, water, that we can use it however we want without regard to where it's coming from and where we're going to get more. It's called the myth of superabundance, and it has directly caused the extinction of several species and almost wiped out several others. Take, for example, the bison, the American bison. From 1720 to 1880, the American bison went from 60 million individuals, some in herds that were 40 or 50,000 strong, to less than 400 individuals, 60 million to less than 400 in over 100 years because of human beings. That's pretty bad. There's another one that's actually even worse, the passenger pigeon. There were an estimated 5 billion, 5 with a B behind that, and then an illion, in case your ears are a little ringing. I know mine were. 5 billion of these birds. We hunted them to complete and total global extinction. The last one, named Martha, died in the Cincinnati Zoo, September 1st, 1914. We managed to wipe out 5 billion birds in 100 years. How? How do we do this? Well, it wasn't just the bison and the passenger pigeon. Beavers, the things that dam up your pond. White-tailed deer, the thing you hunt every year, almost hit with your car every night. Wood ducks, wild turkeys. In the 1930s, all of these things were critically endangered. As a matter of fact, seeing a wood duck or a white-tailed deer here in the southeast was nigh on impossible. They were so close to extinction because of market hunting, the fur trade, and other reasons. We had them, and we didn't take care of them. As a matter of fact, it talks about in one of my Intro to Wildlife Management books that in the years 1885 to 1910, the big game population of the United States was reduced by more than 80%. 80% gone. Bison, pronghorn, elk, bison. There was a lot of bison being killed. I can't come to terms with that. I mean, those numbers are too high for me. They're just too big. I'm one person, even with a lot of people. How do we do this? Well, so what? So we lost a pigeon and we almost killed some other stuff. What does that actually matter to you and me? Well, let's talk about an example, the longleaf pine, which is another thing we have to study as fish and wildlife students. The longleaf pine was the predominant tree in the southeast. It covered 37 million hectares in 9 states, 412 counties, from Galveston Bay in Texas to Chesapeake Bay. That's a pretty big range. There were 200 species, or are 200 species, of rare or endangered plants that rely on the ecosystem created by this one tree, the longleaf pine, Pinus palustris alone. There are 38 specialist species, some of which you've heard of and know to be endangered, like the gopher tortoise and the red-cockaded woodpecker. So, why are those species important? Well, gopher tortoise digs extensive burrows underground, and more than 300 species of vertebrates and invertebrates, snakes, other turtles, insects, spiders, actually use those burrows. So you have one species dependent on another species that's actually both keystone species. They are very, very important to that one ecosystem, but that ecosystem is massive. 37 million hectares. I mean, that's a lot of room. 9 states, remember. The red-cockaded woodpecker is the only woodpecker in the world that actually builds its nest in living trees, and these nests can persist for years, up to 400 years, because longleaf pine trees live for a long, long time. They grow very slowly though, so. But even so, that's still another habitat, another little, living area created. So you have all these other species dependent on 2 species that are dependent on one species that we almost wiped out. The Pinus palustris, longleaf pine, is now found only in 2.2% of its original habitat, less than 800,000 hectares. And all of that is scattered across those 9 states, meaning that there's no one good population to support gopher tortoises or red-cockaded woodpeckers. So what? So we almost lost some trees. What does it matter? Well, it matters because we need diversity. When you don't have diversity, you get what's called a monoculture, where you have a predominance of one thing. Take, for example, the Irish potato famine, caused because they were so reliant on potatoes, those potatoes died out. Hundreds of thousands of people died, hundreds of thousands more, including some of my ancestors, immigrated. They had no choice. They had to get out because they were so reliant on that one thing. A monoculture. Agricultural, but still counts. But these are all things that went extinct in the 1800s. I mean, 1930s, we almost lost the beavers. Who cares? I care, and you should care too, because it's still happening. The West African black rhino that I mentioned earlier, those went extinct in 2006. Yeah, that was pretty recent. The Javan tiger, 1979. Beiji river dolphin in China, 2006 again. They're completely gone forever. I'll never get to see one. Neither will you, unless we clone them from, the dead corpses we saved. Sphinx's macaw is extinct in the wild. There are a few living in captivity, but as of 2004, you can't just walk out somewhere and see them anymore. Hawaiian honey creeper, again, 2004. The eastern cougar died in 2011. Completely gone, worldwide. Global extinction. And the one that actually kicked off my decision to do this talk was Lonesome George, the Pinta Island giant tortoise. He died June 25th, 2012. Last of his kind. They couldn't get him to breed. He was more than 100 years old. And now there are no more ever in the world. Completely gone. We're losing those 1.7 million species at an alarming rate, and it is our fault. Other things do have factors, but mostly it's human beings. I have here a list, 24 pages of just animals, not plants, not fungi, that have gone extinct since 1500, since people have actually begun to have a variable, measurable influence on the ecosystem on the earth. things that I've never even heard of, things that don't even have a common name, just a scientific name, because nobody had the chance to actually really figure out what to call these things. They went extinct too fast. We found them and we killed them off. Like the giant dodo. Have you ever seen one? I have. It was a picture, and that's all I'll ever see of them. There is good news. And it started in 1901. Unfortunately, it started with an assassination. President McKinley was assassinated, and Theodore Roosevelt took his place as President of the United States. Theodore Roosevelt, or Teddy, and his forestry chief, Gifford Pinchot, realized we had to do something. They created the first wildlife refuges in the world, and they actually coined this term, Gifford Pinchot did, called conservation. He wanted something that was a balance between preservation, using something not at all, just keeping it the way it is, never touching it, and exploitation, completely using it without any regard to future prospects. So conservation, he coined it from the Latin term conservare, guard, together. And he realized, along with Roosevelt, that together we can actually protect these natural resources we have. And it wasn't just animals, it was the land, it was the habitat. They saw that all of this is interconnected. You got the longleaf pines, which create the longleaf pine ecosystem, which supports more than 400 species, 300 and something of which you can only find in the longleaf pine ecosystem. You have to protect it all because it's all connected. And it makes sense. I mean, think about it like your house. Would you want somebody walking in your house and throwing trash around and polluting and stinking up the place, making it unlivable? No. This is our home, planet Earth. This is all we have. We can't leave. We don't have a galactic broom to come through and sweep every now and then. We have to make do with what we've got because, while we have resources that are sustainable, we don't have resources that are renewable all the time. Fossil fuels, for example. And it's not just species we're losing. I mean, I go out at night and I'm trying to look at the night sky. There's light pollution from the racetrack every Saturday. There's noise pollution. I can't enjoy the quiet. Those are natural resources. Being able to see the stars, the dark of night, being able to listen to the animal calls. I mean, these are aesthetic values, but they're still a value, something you can measure. So we had presidential help, but there's stuff that you can do as well. For example, take your own grocery bags. I mean, you can buy these at Buy Low. We got this one at Moats IGA. You buy them for like $1, or just take your own bags. Don't use plastic bags. They're non-biodegradable. If you do have to use something, try to use something biodegradable. Buy a more fuel-efficient car. Try to drive less. Buy local produce. Start a compost heap. Use it to grow your own food. Try to shower shorter. You know, I mean, just simple things like that. That if we can all do a little something, if we can all together guard what we have, it will make a difference. Maybe not much at first, but do you really want to sit around and say, I'm directly responsible for the next great extinction event? I don't. I mean, we have so much to lose. But once you get outside, you'll also see that we have so much to gain, so much to protect. If you look behind me, these are some of my favorite things to protect and to explore and discover. Insects. These are all local species. Oh, please don't fall. That I actually went out and caught in my backyard. I mean, moths, long horn beetles, dragonflies, wasps. Spiders aren't insects, they're arachnids, but they're still pretty cool. All of these things that do us a great service, cleaning up our waste, helping recycle nutrients back into the soil. We have trees that make air and water for us. And what do? We kill them, we cut them down, we use them. 98% of the dry tropical forest in South America is completely gone now. It's been cleared to make way for drug fields and favelas and farmland. I understand that we need progress. I understand that we need room. But I also understand that that's an anthropocentric view, meaning it's us saying that we're the most important thing. We have to remember these other species have been here long before we were. There's a balance in the ecosystem that we're disrupting. We're the invader here. We've taken ourselves outside of the natural order, and we're frankly making a mess of it. So what do we do? Well, mostly use your head. Work together. Pay attention. Don't accept things just because people say them. I'm not going to get into that. And remember that by helping others, you're also helping yourself. Conservation. Together, we can guard these things. Together, we can save them and bring them back. Because I don't want them to go extinct. And I don't think you do either. Thank you.